So you're scrolling through the news, right? And suddenly you see a major earthquake, 7.7 magnitude striking Myanmar Sagaing region, late March 2025, and tremors felt as far away as Bangkok.
Yeah, a really significant event. And, looking at these early reports, it seems like the shallow depth, about 10 kilometers, really amplified the impact.
It really did, and that's exactly what we are going to deep dive into today, the immediate aftermath of this earthquake. We've got a bunch of different reports to dig into.
Absolutely. And I think, right off the bat, what's important to consider is the geological context, right? This earthquake originated along the Sagaing Fault,
Right.
a known seismic zone in Myanmar.
Mm-hmm.
And, the region has historically experienced significant earthquakes. So this is not entirely unexpected.
No, it's not. And, we're seeing those reports varying a little bit. The USGS and Germany's GFZ reporting 7.7, Thailand's Meteorological Department 8.2.
Oh, wow.
Epicenter near Mandalay, and then just minutes later, a 6.4 magnitude aftershock, and another one at 7.0.
Yeah, a cascade of seismic activity.
It really is. And, tragically, looking at the initial reports, the humanitarian toll is already significant.
Yeah.
Myanmar confirming 181 deaths, over 730 injuries, and expectations are that those numbers are going to rise.
Right. And we are seeing reports of specific incidents, a mosque collapsing in Taungoo, resulting in 3 deaths, a hotel collapse in Ongban, 2 deaths there, 20 injuries, a monastery, the Walunan Monastery in Taungoo collapsed, 5 displaced children and a novice were killed.
Yeah, and then even further afield in Bangkok, we saw the collapse of a 30-story building under construction. 8 deaths there, around 50 injuries reported, a lot of people initially trapped.
Oh, wow.
So immediate needs are huge: medical supplies, trauma care, search and rescue, of course, shelter, food, clean water, and hospitals in those affected regions are facing critical shortages of blood.
Yeah, and it's important to remember, that this earthquake hit Myanmar amidst an existing severe humanitarian crisis.
Right.
Due to internal conflict. So this pre-existing vulnerability really adds another layer of complexity to this disaster response and the delivery of aid.
It absolutely does, and we're seeing those reports coming out of Myanmar that the damage is extensive, widespread collapses in Mandalay and Sagaing regions, a 5-story building, a tea shop, university buildings, monasteries, a car accessories store damaged, the former royal palace in Mandalay.
Wow.
The 90-year-old Ava Bridge collapsed.
Oh, no.
In the Sagaing region, also the Dotitawadi Bridge on the Yangon Mandalay Expressway also collapsed. Sections of that Mandalay-Yangon Highway damaged. Some religious shrines in Naypyidaw also seeing damage.
Oh, wow.
And, Mandalay Airport has reported collapsed ceilings damage to the basement.
Goodness.
Mandalay University reports collapses fires at the university. The Myanmar Red Cross headquarters and the Mandalay Emergency Operations Center in Naypyidaw also reporting damage. And then there's a report of a dam burst in the Mandalay region causing flooding.
Oh, gosh. So widespread.
Yeah, and then, in Thailand, of course, that 30-story high-rise collapse in Bangkok really, underlines the power of these events.
Yeah, for sure. And just even, tall buildings swaying in Bangkok, leading to evacuations. They had to temporarily suspend Bangkok's elevated rapid transit and subway systems. Damage to the expressway uneven surface on Ramatu Road.
It really does show how, geographically further away these tremors can still be felt.
Absolutely. And I think, with Bangkok being situated on an alluvial plain, which is basically, loose sediment deposited by rivers, that can really intensify the shaking.
It can. So, looking at the governmental responses, Myanmar declared a state of emergency in 6 affected regions,
Right.
including Naypyidaw and Mandalay. And notably, the military junta has requested international humanitarian aid.
Oh, wow. That's fairly unusual.
It is. And, they've mobilized rescue teams. Damage assessment is underway, a public call for blood donations. And we saw some Myanmar National Airlines flights canceled.
Okay.
In Thailand, Bangkok declared a disaster area. The prime minister called for calm, convened an emergency meeting.
Yeah.
Emergency responders have been mobilized to that collapsed building site. Right. Trading on the stock exchange of Thailand temporarily suspended evacuation of unsafe buildings in Bangkok ordered, and then an order for comprehensive inspection of all buildings in Bangkok.
Oh, wow.
And as a precaution, schools across Thailand closed.
Wow. Okay.
So, a swift reaction there.
It sounds like it.
And then internationally, we're seeing the UN and its agencies mobilizing resources. The World Health Organization preparing trauma supplies, the Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs gathering information. The World Food Program offering food aid.
Right.
UNHCR concerned about displaced populations.
Of course.
And then, various NGOs mobilizing the Myanmar Red Cross Society, deploying teams, the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies, concerned about Access World Vision, prepared to respond.
Yeah.
The International Rescue Committee assessing needs care, International assessing damage, Amnesty International calling for unimpeded aid access, and then Christian Aid reporting on that dam burst.
Yeah.
And then internationally, India offering all possible support, France ready to provide support, the EU ready to help, and also activating Copernicus satellites for imagery, and Pope Francis offering prayers.
Okay.
And it's interesting because, a U.S. government analysis had anticipated this.
Oh, really?
That, such an event could lead to high casualties and economic damage.
Wow.
And it's interesting to note that, the World Economic Forum previously recommended base isolation and, smart building engineering techniques to mitigate these kinds of risks.
Yeah. Well, hopefully that's something that will be looked at for the future.
Yeah, because, economically, the immediate fallout is going to be really considerable for Myanmar. Potentially severe losses in the Sagaing region and the Mandalay region.
Right.
Trade and commerce disrupted with that damage to the Ava Bridge and the Mandalay-Yangon Highway.
Yeah, makes sense.
Businesses and livelihoods in urban centers like Mandalay disrupted tourism is likely going to be affected by the damage to cultural sites. And of course, this is going to exacerbate Myanmar's already fragile economy.
Yeah, for sure. And then in Thailand, the developers and contractors of that collapsed building are facing huge financial losses.
Right.
And we saw that market uncertainty with the temporary suspension of the Stock Exchange of Thailand.
Yeah.
And those transportation disruptions in Bangkok are going to have short-term economic consequences.
Right. And it's really concerning to hear that insurance coverage in Myanmar is quite low, which could really hinder their recovery efforts in the long term.
Absolutely. So, what's so striking about this deep dive is how it really underlines how interconnected we are. Both geologically and in terms of our vulnerability to these kinds of events.
Yeah, it really does.
And it just underscores how critical it is to have resilient infrastructure and effective disaster preparedness strategies, particularly in those seismically active zones like this one.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, it really leaves us thinking about, the long term, right? What's going to happen with these recovery needs in both Myanmar and Thailand, especially with the complexities of delivering aid in Myanmar's current political climate.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, in what role can technology and international cooperation really play in building resilience against future disasters?
Yeah. Are there innovative technologies that can be brought in? How can we collaborate better internationally to support these nations and make sure that they are better prepared for events like this in the future?
Right. Well, that's something we'll have to keep an eye on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll see you next time.